is to sort of hit some key topical areas that are kind of going on in public education today. And of course, all of these, one could take lots of different positions, and I'm going to try and keep it just the facts, ma'am, right? Like not too one way or the other, just sort of present information. Of course, I personally and many of us have strong opinions one way or the other, but I want to just sort of present the landscape of topics of public education, and then we're going to have our candidates come up and introduce themselves and talk a little bit about themselves, because these are the folks that will be on your November 3rd ballot. And we have an uncontested race, really, so we have 3 open seats and 3 candidates, so these will be our school board leadership for the next couple of years. And then, since it's such a great small group, we thought the best use of our time is to be interactive. If people have questions of the candidates, this would be a great opportunity to have some, good 20-30 minutes of sort of feedback, right, back and forth. All right. So let's get into it. The Cincinnati Public School District is the 3rd largest district in Ohio. And we have, now some of my data, you guys, there's a lot of experts in the room here, so if I'm a little off on some of this, correct me. All right. So we have 55 schools, 12 high schools, 39 elementary schools, and 4 combined K-12 schools. Some of that, I hope that's accurate. The district covers an area of 91 square miles, and so it's not just the city of Cincinnati proper. It also includes schools in Amberley Village, Cheviot, Gulf Manor, the city of Silverton, parts of Fairfax and Wyoming, and small parts of Anderson, Columbia, Delhi, Green, Springfield, and Sycamore townships. So we have voters in those areas also voting on our board and our levies. So the question is, how are schools funded? And I just thought I'd give a quick overview of that. Public school districts use a combination of state funds. Local sources includes property taxes and some federal funding. The amount of state funds that comes down is based on a formula, and it takes into account student enrollment and the property wealth of the district. This is really 30,000 feet, like, summary of this, right? Okay, so, and I have to wear glasses now. This just happened. I'm not used to it. Okay. Okay, so property tax is the main funding mechanism available to school districts to increase revenues. And, of course, state law makes a distinction between operating funds and capital improvement. So proceeds from an operating levy is used, for running the district, salaries, benefits, personnel, textbooks, etc. Local funding can vary widely among districts because it's based on real estate value, right? And so because of this, the Supreme Court of Ohio ruled in 1997 that the way Ohio funds our schools is actually unconstitutional, but that has not been changed. So that's how we fund things. And in fact, in 2016, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a levy. There's going to be a Cincinnati Public School levy. So as voters in the CPS district, you're pretty used to seeing school levies on your ballots, because that's kind of how we have to get our schools funded. Next, I wanted to cover charter schools really quickly. So what are charter schools? These are essentially privately run schools funded through public taxpayer dollars. One of the key differences between charters and traditional public schools is the regulatory freedom and autonomy from state and local rules. So they kind of run privately. Some are operated as by for-profit companies. They are not democratically run in that they don't have to answer to democratically elected school district leadership, right? So they run schools. There has been quite a bit of news articles in our local newspaper around the issue of charter schools and charter school funding because it can get kind of complicated with how, so every school kid in Ohio gets a dollar amount assigned to them. This is how much it costs to educate this child. This is how much. And so this Now, so the state says, and it said somewhere around $5,900. That's how much it should cost to teach a student for the year. So some kids get a little more than that if they have special needs or are not native English speakers. And so the state says this is how much it costs to educate a student. But then the state does not send down 100% of that amount, right? Because it's based on your area's sort of property wealth. And so long story short, Cincinnati gets about 44% of that covered by the state. The rest we have to raise with local property taxes. Okay, so then, and this is, you know, I feel like usually I'm a pretty smart person, and I've read so much about this, but I still have a hard time like figuring these formulas out. So Cincinnati Public gets like $3,000 approximately per student from the state. But charter schools get 100% of, and you know what, I might defer this conversation to Eve or some other experts because this is a little complicated. But if a student leaves traditional public school in Cincinnati Public and chooses to go to a charter school, they take their, you know, that money, the cost of the student with them. So the local generated revenue to make up for what the state doesn't cover for that student goes to that student as they go to a charter school. So what that means, and some of the debate is that some of the public dollars, your taxpayer dollars, are following students as they go into privately run schools. Okay, so that's a quick overview of that. Moving on, because I want to cover a couple other hot topics. Another hot topic has been the Accelerator Fund, which was reported in May, back in May, in the Cincinnati Enquirer as a group of Cincinnati business leaders, educators, and philanthropists got together and, you know, have $25 million, and they're hoping to raise more. And their goal is to create more quality seats in Cincinnati Public Schools. They have hired a CEO, Patrick Carroll. I don't think he's here today. Oh, good, he'll be here shortly. So that's good because people may have questions because I couldn't, you know, I did a little searching and I haven't seen any public updates on what the plan is for that pool of money. But it's certainly something to watch because it will affect Cincinnati Public Schools, however they choose to spend that money. Okay, moving on, I want to touch on high stakes testing. This is another sort of hot topic you'll hear both nationally, not so much locally here, but essentially in 2002, with the signing of the No Child Left Behind Act, it ushered in an era of high stakes testing in that the law required states to administer tests, and if they showed that they could not make adequate yearly progress, they were considered failing districts, failing schools. The law came with a hefty price tag for states. In fact, the Brookings Institute shows that states spend $1.7 billion a year on testing. And this goes to a very few testing companies, such as Pearson, racking up, again, billions of dollars in sales. Here in Ohio, big controversy around the PARCC test, how many parents and teachers were unsatisfied with the PARCC test. And so the state contracts with the testing company, and Governor Kasich said, "Well, we're getting rid of PARCC, and we're gonna choose AIR now. AIR is this other testing company." Well, how does this affect, you know, everyday people? Well, you know, the fact is that you may be hearing some parents are feeling like they're going to opt out, right? Like, I don't want my child having to go through, you know, hours and hours of testing. So there's kind of a national opt-out movement happening. It's most notably in New York State. A lot of parents have chosen to say, I don't want my child participating in these tests. Some question the value of the test. The test is really only measuring a couple topics, and what some concern is that teachers with their limited time and resources have shifted to teaching to the test, right? And so you're seeing less and less art, music, and theater, and creative writing and stuff because it's just math and science. So there's been truly effects for teachers and students in this new era of sort of high stakes testing. And why is it called high stakes? Because that one score on these tests carries a whole lot of weight in terms of a student's future, where they're placed in the next class. It also has a huge weight on a teacher's evaluation. So teachers are also evaluated based on these test scores. Okay, moving on to another hot topic. And let me cover, I got two left here. Well, yeah. House Bill 70. This was a statewide piece of legislation that was just passed. You might have heard of it down here because State Representative Denise Driehaus was a co-sponsor. It was a bipartisan bill that she worked on for a little over 2 years. It was originally a community learning center bill, which we're very proud down here in Cincinnati Public District because it's our it is the policy on the books that every school be a community learning center, and that's essentially a model where you bring in wraparound resources for your urban district. We know the reality is many of our school children are living below the poverty line. They are lacking some basic resources. So the model brings in health care, it brings in after school, it brings in even food assistance. So that's the model, and Denise Driehaus recognized the value. We've been nationally recognized, internationally recognized for our model here, and it was an effort to put it into state law. Well, at the 12th hour, literally, a 66-page amendment was inserted that had 66 pages of language around a takeover strategy, which basically says if your district is failing for so many years, a CEO can be inserted, and then they can get rid of essentially the whole democratically elected school board. This is happening right now in Youngstown, Ohio. This is a statewide law. Next is Lorain District, and Cincinnati is on that list because of our scorecard. So it's of great concern to people who are concerned about maintaining democratically elected school boards and access. So that's something to keep an eye on. We got two topical areas left. One is the magnet school lottery. So some of you may have heard about the parents camping out and they were upset. Well, long story short, our district, basically if you're a parent, you can pick whatever school your child goes to. You know, I don't have to put my kid in my neighborhood school. I can put them really anywhere. There's magnet schools, there's Paideia schools, there's neighborhood schools, lots of different schools. And so the policy of the district had been for Fairview, Clifton, and well, for magnet schools, and Fairview, Clifton is one of those, that the first, you know, so if I have a child already in the school and then its sibling, my other child wants to go, I get first dibs. And then the second is 30% of the seats at the magnet school go up for lottery for the 6 lowest performing schools in the district. So that means if my child's in a really low performing school, I can get into a lottery. And then if my kid hits the lottery, I get to pull them over to Fairview, Clifton, or whatever magnet. And then the third round is the rest was first come, first served. And that's what precipitated this camp out phenomenon where parents were camping out. Okay, the new recommended, and it was just passed recently by the current Board of Ed, is it's very similar. Number 1, if you have a sibling. Number 2, 30% lottery. But number 3, it's no longer first come, first served. It's now a citywide lottery. So that's a big change that's happened, and of course there's a lot of controversy. Some of the parents feel that, you know, in the original plan you had to take a tour, do some paperwork, and be really invested in the model. It's a German language school, so it's different from other schools in that the children have a second language. So anyway, I just thought I'd cover that really quickly because it's actually caused a lot of discussion at the board and also in the community about, you know, issues of equity and access, right? And what is the best way to prioritize children in various schools. And last but not least, I thought I would cover preschool. Preschool, of course, everyone recognizes the value of quality early childhood education. It is a key indicator of future academic success. And, you know, many feel that every child should have access to quality early childhood preschool. So